That's where it's like all at work and then you mess it up when you're taking it off.
Yeah.
So COVID, I feel like, has affected everyone differently, and the lockdown has affected everyone differently. It's either enhanced their well-being or it's actually diminished their well-being. And I find I've had a bit of both of those experiences, but for the most part, it's been the silver lining. I think COVID, the lockdowns have been the silver lining is the art center and getting back in there and rediscovering my love for the arts and getting so many beautiful opportunities that I don't think I would have had if I didn't have that time to really start things off the way that I did, and to have that time to slow down. COVID really helped, I think, put a lot of things in perspective for what's important in your life and what areas that you want to focus on, or goals that you have that you kind of swept underneath the rug while you're, in the grind and you're in the fast lane with life. So it really just broke down that for what was the most important things in my life. And I love to create. There's never a day that goes by that I'm not creating something or working on something, or even if it's just a small project to a big, big project. So it was just something that really filled up my cup and my well-being during that time. And that's my positive experience coming out of the pandemic, is just, it's allowed me to slow down and really appreciate the gems that are in my community, like the art center here. So that's been a huge safe haven for me to get through those really tough days with all the restrictions. You never know if one thing's open, you don't know if you're wearing masks or not wearing masks, or how many people that you can see or not see. So I think that was the beautiful thing, that it was just this constant light throughout the whole pandemic, was just knowing that I had this space that I could come to and create and get lost from our own crazy world that has all these restrictions and rules and regulations, and sometimes that kind of negative toxicity, to actually getting a chance to really see the community at that core level and get to just bring yourself to your own little world here too, and that creative mind that can kind of help you get through those times, that release, that escape. So.
Especially for you as a caregiver, you're probably one of the most exposed to all the craziness.
Exposed to the most craziness is the right. Yes.
I can only imagine that.
Very high stress, and I think that's where you have to find that balance. We all are trying to, try to find that balance in our lives, and it's hard. It's hard to carve out that time, that self-care time, and I think that's part of my self-care to myself is coming to the arts and having that creative time. It's like going to a counselor, it's going to meet up with a friend, or going for a walk, or going to the gym. You carve out that time for you, right? So you kind of replenish your own cup. And with everything, the pandemic and being a healthcare worker too, it's you need that downtime. So with everything that was shut down, it was, like I said, it was just this lights and clouds and everything. There's something to help you through. So yeah.
About Robin.
You got it. Oh shit. Wait.
Absolutely.
I look like I'm nervous.
Oh, I'm so good. Stop.
I don't know why I had that.
Skating. Yeah.
Yeah.
your point of view, because like we also had a lot of like people for whom everything like stopped,
Yes.
which is completely different.
Yes. Yeah, it's stressful, but just in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And I think really like with life and like, we're always going to have that, right? Like, I mean, this is being amplified and magnified, and I think it's really forcing the hand of people to be like, what do I want to do with my life? What is my purpose? What is my passion? And we're all being pushed into that funnel, whether we like it or not. And it really depends on like, you know, how solid you are in yourself. What kind of personal work are you doing? Are you being objective? Are you being reflective? Are you being compassionate to yourself and others? Are you being kind to others? How that funnel push has gone for you. You know, if it's been scratchy and you're pulling at all of it because you're attached to these things, it can be really uncomfortable, whether you were a person who slowed down or sped up, you know, or if you're somebody who's like, okay, we're doing this, surrendering to the process, you know, I will be okay no matter what, even if my world implodes around me, it's just gonna look different. So I think that as people pop out on the other end of it, even though there was moments of like, what the heck? And you're like going down a roller coaster trying to like put your feet out to get some kind of like bearings and slow down a little bit. When you look back and can connect the dots, we can always connect the dots backwards, but we can't connect the dots forward. You're like, wow, that was actually happening for me, not to me. Yeah.
In my own personal life, I was dealing with the everyday stressors like everybody else did, and trying to discover ways of how I can lean into the stress a little bit without crumbling. And that's where I found the Wim Hof method and breath work and just different forms of how to deal with stress. And yeah, it along the way, I felt so strongly about it that I started to think there's probably 10 to 15% of my patient population that isn't gonna necessarily respond to my methods of traditional manual therapy, exercise, the things I've been using that have been successful. Now I'm starting to see a larger base that don't necessarily respond to that, and trying to figure out why is that. And a lot of it boils down to stress and somatic tension that you would create in your body. You see them come in and they're like, I have neck pain. Well, where do you carry your stress? Well, what are you talking about? You know, you can see it in them. They're just carrying it around with them. And you can do manual therapy and chiropractic and all the things to that person, and they'll still come in tomorrow the same presentation. So while that's good job security, it's not good for the patient because they're not seeing an outcome. So then, yeah, starting to use breath work as a way of tapping into someone's more spiritual side. And that, for me, getting out of my structural head and into my spiritual heart has been a massive game changer in my personal life and in my practice during COVID, right? So I can't do things the normal way because of COVID. That's the gas on the fire, right? How do I put the gas out? I need to come up with a different technique. And so far for me personally, it's been a spiritual journey of breath work and cold immersion and using my mind to focus that I never approached that before. And so now that's starting to trickle into my patient care and my patient management, and good numbers.
I was going through a breakup with a toxic ex. It was really like, what is it called, trauma bond. So it was really high highs, low lows, and I was just sick of being sad. And then I saw people on roller skates on the internet being happy, and I was like, whoa, I want to do that. And it completely changed my life. It got me being active. I got a community of girls. I bought 12 pairs of roller skates that year. I bought every friend I had a pair of roller skates for their birthday, and I mean, I only have one friend who stuck to it religiously with me, but it was awesome. I mean, we were laughing, we were outside, we were having fun. I don't do like skate park or anything, I just dance around, and it was cool because like I got asked to be in a music video. I had photographers reach out to just do like promotion for them and for me, and I grew my page to 2,000 followers in a year, which I was pretty excited for because I never had that many followers. I know it's not a lot, but I was excited that I stayed consistent with something because I did like a year, 365 days of skate. So that was really cool. It's just nice that during a time where everybody's divided, that you can have a sense of community. And there's nobody who I've ever put on a pair of skates who frowned. Like, they get on it and they're instantly laughing. 2 girls did break their wrists, which was very unfortunate, but it's kind of just what happens. As adults, you just have to be careful, I guess. So yeah, that was probably my favorite part about COVID.
But honestly, I think the biggest takeaway of going through all that was just having to stop completely in your tracks and reassess the journey and the path that you're on, and figure out, is this actually the right path for me? Is there something that I need to change? Do I need to take a turn? Do I need to change something? And it was the perfect opportunity to make those drastic changes. And it was a great gift for even myself in that matter, because it allowed me to really drive completely to a halt and figure out, okay, grassroots, break down what are the most important things, and then build out from there. It was a gift in a way that it allowed you to rip up the foundation and assess if it was the proper foundation that you're built on, or if you need to rebuild and move some pieces around. So I think that was the biggest and best takeaway of the whole experience.
When COVID hit, I did a lot of like self deep diving, and I went within and asked myself, like, who am I and how do I want to present into this world? And I was like, well, I'm trans, and I need people to know this. And that was a huge thing within my business, to actually come out to all my customers. And I was like, am I ready for this? Is my clientele gonna drop off because I'm doing this? And that was not the case. If anything, it spiked up clientele. It spiked up my LGBT community. Several people, reached out to me, said their kids are transitioning. Can I get a haircut? Can they get a haircut? I'm like, absolutely. And now, I'm seeing people on my online booking system saying their pronouns within that. I'm like, man, this is so cool. And that all sparked, even before all this, my transitioning was from Love is Love. I was like, how am I gonna present this world? How am I gonna show that I'm a community person, that we accept all people, we're a diverse barbershop, and anyone is welcome within that. And so when I created this decal, I said, what am I gonna say? Like, LGBT plus, welcome, like, how am I gonna do this? And it came to me. I just said, well, love is love. What does it matter? Like, I want people just to be happy. I want my customers to be happy. And it took off. It went throughout our whole community. Everyone was like, where do I get that decal? Where do I get that decal? This decal, I actually had a customer, and I was talking to him about it, and I said, like, how can I create something like this? He's like, okay, you gotta come to my business, which is wholesale graphics, and I can set you up. Like, what are you thinking? I'm like, well, love is love. And he's like, okay, we should probably put a rainbow behind it or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. I'm like, but it's gotta be clean, because that's my shop, right? I wanted like a modern take with this decal. And so he came up with this slash of a over top, and then love is love on top of onto the rainbow. And people loved it. And what he said, he was like, okay, what I'll do for our community is I'm gonna make a donation. So anybody who wants this just makes a donation within our business, and we'll just get this rapid fire everywhere. And within like in 2 weeks, 6 businesses in Vernon had already put him up. I was like, that's crazy. And I just see more and more. I still, to this day, like a year to 2 years after, people coming through my door and being like, that decal's cool, where do I get it? I'm like, oh, you gotta hit these people up, you just gotta put a donation, you're good to go. Yeah.
One of the things I appreciated the most was being able to do my treatments one-on-one with people. It gave me a lot of compassion for everyone's different opinion. And everyone has a story, and everyone's story deserves to be heard, I think. And wherever they come from, whether you actually agree with them or not, once you can actually hear somebody's point of view, it really makes you a bit more compassionate to everyone's plight. And I think that really helped me in just feeling secure through all of this. Like, it helped me balance my fear was pretty at a very base level, and I think that's why.
So you were talking about, because you had a closer contact in one-on-one session with people, talking about all that with other people.
Yeah.
Allowed you to,
Yeah, like hearing people's points of view, and everyone it affected everyone so differently, right? And there were some people that were very scared. There were some people who were very blasé about the whole thing. And I think just being able to have that one-on-one, it was just a bigger story than the average people had with only their 6 people in their bubbles. It made it one thought only. Whereas when you can branch out a little bit, it kind of gives you a broader view and just more compassion.
When I started a new class, and I taught in 2021 over 70 people throughout the year. So I had a lot of conversations with people, why are you here? And I would say that almost without exception, first of all, they said they wanted to do something that for themselves, where pre-COVID they hadn't thought about doing that. And they thought about giving themselves an opportunity to try painting. And I think really what they're saying is, because painting is just one element of creativity. Creativity covers a whole spectrum of behaviors and attitudes. And so often people have never given themselves permission to think creatively. So in a painting class, you give people some tools and some paints and tell them to make a mess. And what they really have is they got permission to try. And so you get people that are what I would say seniors, I would say people that are over 50, that would be a demographic. And I would say that of that group that I taught last year, 90% were in that group. That's not to say young people didn't enjoy themselves too, but they were there for different reasons, I think. But the people who had already, they were in a transition stage in their life, and maybe had retired, children had left or whatever, and there was all of a sudden a void. And then of course now they have this pandemic, which puts restrictions on you anyway. So now you got a ton of extra space and not a lot of opportunity to do anything about it. Those people came to the classes. And the energy and willingness to try and gratitude they showed, not for me so much, but just for the chance to do it, that to me was a huge thing. And I saw that pretty well with everybody.
And a lot of the transition of what I've allowed for myself is really, I spoke a little bit earlier about what it meant to be a leader, and to see, I think sometimes being a leader is to being able to recognize patterns and see how you can maybe create or move or shift or adjust something. And part of that was realizing that my healing abilities or my desire to help people connect and to find this sort of ease of pain or ease of discomfort or a possibility wasn't limited to the walls of the hospital. That it was actually calling me very much outside into the farm. And there's nothing like a farm or trying to grow stuff to put you through the paces of life in terms of learning. There's every emotion, you get emotionally invested in a tomato plant. Every single thing was shame, guilt, hope, fear, sadness, loss. It's all in a garden, just like cooking or something, right? It's all there. And so there's this whole life experience wrapped up in this modality of a farm, but also recognizing that within that I had a deep connection to those kind of rhythms and to how it feels to be outside, and how it feels to try to grow something, and how it feels to have emotions when you're outside, and how it feels to be provided a space or an opportunity that's maybe not traditional. So maybe it's not a psychiatrist's office, or it's you're not perhaps going to go to your MD to talk about some of these things or to have these experiences. So I wanted to create a space where you could have them.
And that to me has a whole lot of dreams. My dream is to create a space on Lowdown Farms, which is the name of the farm, the family name, to have a barn that we can have community events where people can come and either rent the space or access. Hopefully one day we'll have a restaurant that really glorifies our growing capabilities in the Okanagan and in Vernon, but also a place where people can come for retreats or for workshops or breath work, which is something I'm extremely passionate about offering, to be able to start to delve into this other side of personal health and personal development and connecting it into self through a farm and through like a space where you're outside. And it's just something that the connection is there for you on a whole range of levels, depending on wherever you're at. And I really believe that just coming into that space alone and creating the environment for people to feel and have those experiences is what will help get us through all of this and what will help bring about the kind of change and shifts that I think the world is really needing right now. That place to like ground and shift and be like, hey, we're all connected and we're okay.
I think if COVID has done anything for people, it's now made them realize just how important their personal health is to them. A lot of people were healthy before COVID, and then maybe during the 2 years that we've been in this pandemic, they gained a bunch of weight or they struggled with personal issues related to the pandemic, whether it be isolation, working from home, any of the issues that everybody has dealt with. But now it seems like people are really ready to take their lives back. They want to get healthy, they want to prioritize their own personal health, and they look at what happened in the pandemic and they're starting to see all of the data that's coming out now and how personal health has made people far more robust against disease. And they're looking at first line of defense against disease, and they're looking at gyms like ours as that first line of defense and prioritizing their health and taking their lives back. So that's been a real positive that I've seen just since the reopening, since the most recent closure, is people are flooding into gyms, and we've had our most profitable months on record since reopening. And it's because people are prioritizing their health. And I think that's, if we can take one positive out of the pandemic, it's that people are going to look at themselves and think, I don't want to get sick, and the control of that is in my hands, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah, and I feel like people are also a little bit more willing to share. They're almost more willing to be vulnerable. And I'm hearing so many stories as people are coming back, people that are joining, that are sort of indulged or sharing that information. Yes, I've gained weight, or I was really isolated, or I've had postpartum depression. Like, you're hearing these people that have really struggled. And yeah, this is hopefully the end of that. And this is hopefully a space that they can come and focus on their fitness and focus on their health, and it'll affect other places and other things in their lives. Yeah, it is really empowering.
Yeah.
And it's neat that people are willing to share those things with us too, because it gives you a sense of purpose beyond just sort of going to work every day. You really know that you fought for something, and that you have debt for something. Like, it's a purpose beyond just the fight that you went through. So.
Yeah, I think what people think of when they think of the gym now is different. Whereas maybe before it was a bit of a vanity project where people would go to the gym to look better. And then the odd person would go to the gym to feel better or to perform better. But now people realize, after not having gyms for 2 years or after being isolated for 2 years, either how much they miss it or how much value it brings to their lives and how much it enriches their lives and how much healthier they are with the gym in their lives.
I think it made me a lot more emotional, because it was such a wave of mixed emotions through every single day that I definitely cried a lot. As a nurse, I think it made me a lot more adaptable, because, like I said, we were very type A in the OR, so it kind of forced us to take every day differently and kind of mold to whatever we needed to be that day. As a person, I think it made me a lot stronger, because I had to go through all that anxiety and figure out how to deal with that. I started seeing a therapist to to help me deal with everything that was going on instead of just breaking down. So, I mean, I think there was a lot of positive things that came out of it, to be honest, even though it was a very negative thing to happen in the world.
Yeah, so it's just entrepreneur stuff is what I'm doing right now, is just helping people. That's what it is. I could have went and got another flying job, or now there's a few more out there, but for me right now is I will fly for the next 35 years of my life, and I love it and I miss it every day. But through my struggle and through my own journey, I've realized that maybe my purpose is more to help people right now. And just by sharing my story, and that's why I'm so willing to talk. I just think it's important, especially men, to see other men talk makes it much better, because I believe if we empower more men, they'll be able to empower their partners, and it's just a great circle, right? And so I help everybody. I focus a lot on the men's mental health, but I focus a lot on the other health and optimization side of things. And ultimately what it is to realize that everything you want in your life really comes from you. And if you want something, you can achieve it and you can do it. You just, you have to be honest with yourself. And it starts with awareness. It starts with going in, and it's, emotion is such a strength. Vulnerability is such a gargantuan gift that we have that we, for some reason, push down. And so that's what I do. I help people as much as I can by sharing my story, by creating a space, and by affirming people that every emotion they feel is totally okay. It's cool.
So going forward, are you hoping, because you said that a lot of it's based online, not-for-profit, but are you hoping, once the kind of restrictions and whatnot they are lessened, are you hoping to do it a little bit more local too, like hosting events in Vernon or the Okanagan?
It's funny you asked that. Absolutely. There's been a bunch of ideas that I've thought about doing. One of them here, I'll talk to Heather about it at some point, is really pushing for an all-men's Pilates class or an all-men's yoga class, trying to figure out a way to host that, right? And just breaking down barriers like that. It's funny, during COVID, I did host two rather big events. We raised over $5,000 for mental health and created a lot more awareness. People were hashtagging men's mental health, and people were, I had everyone from retired boxers to NHL players to just random people on the street that said, hey, thank you so much for hosting this and creating a space, and they open up. And so going forward, I want to continue to do that. And I definitely want to continue doing one in Ottawa because I have a great relationship with the city. And I want to continue doing more in Vernon as well, of course, because this has been a place that's become very special very quick. And in the hot room as well, and all the people here. And I just want to continue moving that forward. And I think now is the best time ever to really, people have been starting to wake up and become conscious of our mental health, knowing it's just as important as our physical. And that's why I work out. The physical side is actually the benefit, is a side benefit of the mental health that I get from here. And going forward, I just want to advocate for that, yeah.
Last September was hard. Last September, it took a toll on me because we're going and going and going, and that's when I got into meditation. Because as a business owner, I've been in the fitness industry for 22 years. And I found myself not practicing what I preach. I got too tired, I neglected myself, and I needed something to help me with my mind because I was so frustrated with everything that was going on. And I turned to meditation, and it's changed my life. And the other thing is now we do a few meditation classes, and I ran a challenge in January of this year. I decided to run it even though we were closed. I ended up with 70 people online, and it was a 2-month challenge, still running. And the theme of it is what I put myself through in September. So it's mindfulness, movement, and meditation. So we are not focusing now on the physical aspects because people have been through trauma, mental trauma. I've had people walk through my door and say, I know I need to be here, but I can't move. I don't know what to do. So I think now our industry is going to change more into wellness because people don't even have the mindset to put this into routine. So
yeah, it's going to be really interesting for the fitness industry, but I see the industry going forward with spiritual wellness, physical wellness, and mental wellness. So, and that's what we have here at Soul.
So more the health and wellness.
Yes.
And the raised the awareness of the importance of that.
Because
of also
yeah. And without this doesn't change, right? So I think that that's where people have to start and give themselves permission to come and be who they are and do what they need to do and start focusing on the mind first, because they're not going to change, right? It's people are in not good states right now, but we have a community here that will welcome any fitness, any fitness levels. It doesn't matter what shape you're in. You don't have to work out before you come to Soul. They say, I need to be in shape. I need to be in shape before I come. I'm like, no, I don't want you to be in shape before you come. I want to help you on your journey, and that's what we're for here. We want to help people get from point A to point B and meet them where they're at.
I think it's getting for some people, it's getting a little more palatable or a little more, I don't know the word, not as uncomfortable maybe as it once was to have those conversations. And, in the political realm, I have those conversations with non-Indigenous municipal leaders, provincial leaders, federal leaders, the highest levels of Canada to community level, right? We unfortunately have those conversations every day of our life. So for us, it's normal. But I think, having the climate be what it is in the world today, it lends that opportunity, I guess, to interject, I think, some of the things that we're going through. And, to keep in mind the 215 children at Kamloops residential school in Kamloops arose during the pandemic. And so, again, it opened the doors for some of those conversations and some of that attention to be looking at those things. And so, it's never completely comfortable for people, but I just think that looking at the times we're in, we need to start being a little less hesitant to engage and start those conversations given the state of the world. And so I think on an Indigenous side, maybe we're getting a little more comfortable coming out in public and sharing it. Some spaces, I think, are being a little more opened to us to allow those conversations to happen. I guess is probably a better way to frame it, because we've always been the type to be vocal about it. We've just never had the world stage or the, that type of national stage to be able to have it heard at that level. So.
And there are some provinces or states or countries that are in fact talking about this, is how cardiovascular health and exercise and fitness on a regular routine is extremely beneficial to your immune system. Mm-hmm. And I truly hope that message gets exploded in the next 6 months, mm-hmm. where we're not relying on medicine and vaccinations and treatment, but proactive and pre-treatment of being fit and healthy. We know for a fact that the people who have gotten the most sick already have a number of underlying diseases and comorbidities, and these are the people that are being affected the worst. There are obviously outliers that have a good cardiovascular system and have had a poor experience with COVID, but that's been quite few and far between. But it's very proven that if you have a high cardiovascular system, good health, that your immune system gets bumped up. And I think that message needs to be broadcasted very loudly in the next 6 months. Mm-hmm. And that's just another simple way that public health and the governments can help the population, help their healthcare systems, and help the businesses that have been affected so drastically by this virus.
So as a new business owner, I think I had some ideas of how the trajectory of the store was going to be. And I thought it was going to be more like this. I thought I was going to have a gradual increase. And with the pandemic, it just ended up being an absolute skyrocket launch. I feel like as a new business owner that opened during the pandemic, I am just always pivoting. And I'm a little panicked, to be honest, to find out what business is going to be like without having to continuously pivot, because I love a challenge, I love to plan, I love to assess, and I'm afraid that I'm just not going to have that same kind of dynamic environment in business. And it might be amazing because I might be able to catch my breath and kind of relax more and take it all in, because it's incredibly enjoyable. But yeah, I am a little concerned of what it's going to be like if it's just business as usual, because I don't know what that's like. I do think hindsight will be 2020 when I can look back on it and be like, holy cow, that was insane, and it was just after you opened. So it'll be interesting to look back on it and kind of see that part of opening during a pandemic and then making it through and succeeding. And I know there's going to be a ton of gratitude at that point as well, because one thing that I felt in spades during the pandemic was our community support. And I feel like we're a community shop. We have local products. We want to support our local suppliers. Our community in Vernon is absolutely amazing, and they stood behind us, and you heard time and time again how people wanted to support local businesses. So you have to really appreciate that the people didn't just automatically go to online buying or order things from Amazon, that they actually came into the independent stores and helped support us. We're an amazing community here, and that's one thing that you really felt throughout the pandemic was the support from everyone. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a good community. Yeah.
Do you feel like this sparked a little bit the interest and the curiosity around art in any way, or do you have like the way to know this?
Yeah, I can tell that by the new members that are coming to the centre. So it has been a bit of a resurgence for the centre. It's a bit of an injection of new people that are coming, that have been made aware, that are looking for that outlet. So what started at home, has then spread to more of a permanent setting, if you like, where people are exploring a little bit of art that want to take it to the next level. So whether that be 2D art or clay or glass, we have the facility for it. Is there not a bigger picture there on the world set on a global level where we are all going back to our roots? We're realizing the importance of growing our own food. We're realizing the importance of knowing how to do stuff, and as opposed to relying on what's on the shelf or, relying on the system to take care of us. We do. There is a bit of a movement there that goes back to the inner core of who we are, and art is one of those things. We look for ways to release. It's not necessarily Netflix as much. We need to do something with our hands.
I think a silver lining from all of this is the amount of gratitude that people have for being able to do the things that we may have taken for granted before. So coming together, being able to practice yoga, breathe together, have this sense of community and togetherness is something that I know myself took for granted, and definitely wouldn't do that in the future. I think that it has really taught us how to just live in the moment and be really present and grateful for what we have right now.